Hi, and welcome to the final innovation project presentation by Rose Zugan and Dr. Karsten Pfluger. Now, our innovation project, we decided to create a faculty health and wellness initiative. We thought this was an incredibly topical conversation and initiative to not only have, but to create, given everything that has just recently happened over the past school year. Now, typically when we discuss health and wellness, we are usually talking about our students and our families and our classrooms. Rarely does the conversation ever shift to our teachers or to our administrators. So we believed an initiative was highly relevant and imperative to starting out the next school year. So what are we going to change? And we'll talk about the why and how later, but essentially we are going to create a health and wellness committee that will be kick-started over the summer during orientation at the Amadeus International School of Vienna, AV. What the committee will do, during orientation, we will have a set of activities for staff to reflect on themselves, to reflect on the past school year, and then during the last day of the activities, we will then put a call out for a committee to begin. And essentially, the committee will be focused on health and wellness activities, again, events to support the school moving forward. Now, why is this particular innovation or change significant? And why do we focus on this and not curriculum or educational technology or the schedule or any of that? We thought that starting next school year without truly, without truly recognizing the significant impact of the previous school year with the pandemic, online learning, for many teachers, also being parents and working full-time at home, many of our teachers and administrators went through incredible amounts of psychological trauma, very turbulent and volatile times. Some of our teachers were stuck in countries, unable to see family, or felt trapped, or physically could not leave where they were. Others suffered significant financial loss. And we believed that now more than ever, if we were to start the school year without some kind of system in place or support to help our teachers, we would be starting the school year off on a very negative note. We also wanted to end or talk about ending the stigma of mental health in education, especially when it comes to our teachers and to our administrators. And we also believed that creating this initiative would help the school culture and climate. Now, why might our innovation work? Now, the background of our school, Amadeus International School, part of the core values and mission statement talk about kindness and respect. In addition, the new director, is completing his PhD. His dissertation has to do with positive psychology. So there is a lot of interest in this area, and the director is fully on board with starting this initiative. We also believed that it would be a new, fresh cohesion to create with new and returning staff. It's also a way for the school, the returning staff, to get some kind of closure and acknowledgement of the past school year. Many teachers and students, but we're talking about the teachers here, they ended the school year without any sort of closure. Everything was very frantic. It was fast-paced, it was stressful, it was hectic. Many were still also educating their own children at home. And so to not talk about what happened last year or plan for some sort of support moving forward, we thought that having this committee would help bridge the gap between our returning staff and the past school year with our new staff and moving forward, and how can we both come together and support one another emotionally and physically and emotionally. We also believe that our school, there's a certain amount of happiness that's also in our mission statement. And again, our director is very committed to this idea already, so we know that we'll have a lot of buy-in from our organization. So how are we going to do all of this, our action plan? So the kickoff will begin at orientation, whole school orientation, not just new staff. And what we've decided is that the first 3 days of orientation will begin with a health and wellness activity. Now, in our paper, we have highlighted and we've actually detailed each activity, how to implement it, what you need, how much time it will take. But for just this presentation, I'll just quickly go over each activity. But the first day of orientation, faculty and staff will create a personal roadmap. And essentially, the roadmap, the activity, is you create a roadmap of how you got to where you are right now. And typically, you ask the participants to list at least 5 to 6 events. Now, it can start from left to right. It can go from top to bottom. It can start from the middle, go out. It can just be pictures. It can just be words. It's basically a visual representation for people to reflect on significant moments, significant events that got them to where they are today. Now, it is a very introspective activity, and it asks people to think about things that are important to them. But then once the roadmaps are completed, they can share those with the others around them. Again, this is just to start off orientation. It is not necessarily an icebreaker, but it is a reflective piece. Now, the second day is what they call the iceberg activity. I think many of us have probably done all of these activities at one point or another. But the iceberg, the idea here is it's kind of a metaphor or a visual picture of, on the top is kind of what you can see, the iceberg that's above the water. And obviously, the rest of it is underneath, and there are things that are not visible to people, things that you keep private, that people would not necessarily know about you from just seeing you and knowing what you do on your day-to-day. And the iceberg activity is kind of a nice cohesive bit because it asks the teachers at the very end to fill out a sentence starter, and it says basically, if you knew me, you would really know blank. And then everybody would fill that in, and it would be displayed to kind of bring all the staff together. But the third day of the activity is the cross the line activity. And this is where the facilitator and the school, the administration, will actually get to discuss the whole staff's experience with COVID-19, with the pandemic, with online learning, either at the current school or the schools they were at previously. And essentially, there's about 15 to 20 statements that we've already completely detailed in our paper. So if anybody wants to use this activity, just please ask us for the paper, and we're happy to share it with you. But essentially, it starts off you have the staff line up, you draw a line, either with chalk or tape, and you read out statements. And if the faculty member or staff identifies with that statement, they walk up to the line and they turn around and they face where they came from. So the statements start off pretty surface level. Again, like the first one we wrote was, if you or someone you know had to teach online for the first time ever. The second one was, you or someone you know missed seeing your students in class. And then they gradually get more and more serious. So for instance, cross the line if you or someone you knew were scared or uncertain about what would happen in the future. If you or someone you knew suffered significant financial loss. Then we even go into if you or someone you knew either fell ill of COVID-19 or died of COVID-19. And so we have a whole slew of like about 20 different statements that we are able to visually see people who different statements impacted. And so as a faculty, you can kind of see where everybody was with regard to the pandemic, new teachers and returning teachers. And then at the very end of the activity, we ask that the teachers and faculty write a reflective piece. It can be a few sentences, a paragraph, a page, to reflect on not just the statements of the activity, but of the previous school year and how they feel moving into the current school year. So this activity specifically discusses the significance of what happened during the pandemic and at our schools and schools around the world. And then after that activity is a kind of a call for committee representation. So we've already gotten an administrator and a counselor to kind of lead the committee, but then we will ask for teacher volunteers and we'll post a sign-up sheet in a central location. And yeah, that's pretty much the action plan to start off. Then throughout the year, the committee will have a bulletin board dedicated to themselves. We would like it to be somewhere central in the school. Essentially, the board will be updated at least once a quarter, but the very first bulletin board will include a list of resources and information that teachers can access. So basically information of like acupuncturists, massage therapists, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, gyms, things like that, art therapists, and then basically all the information so that teachers don't have to necessarily go digging around for who's good in this area. And then sometimes we're our own best recommendations. So that kind of thing. Also like tips and advice. So the bulletin boards will be updated by the committee. And then every Monday, the committee will send out a motivational email. We'll call it a Monday motivation email. And it'll be just simple videos, quotes, tips that have to do with mental health and well-being. So again, to kind of get a gauge on the staff, because we can also use our analytics to see who's been reading the emails or how many people have been reading the emails. And then the committee will also be in charge of planning at least between 2 to 3 wellness events. So this could be a yoga workshop where we hire somebody to come on in and train the staff on simple breathing techniques and simple yoga poses to help promote well-being. It could be we bring in an art therapist who leads everybody in a workshop. It could be a nutritionist. However the committee decides they want to move forward. Now, the thing we'd have to work in is the PD. So if the administration gives us a full day dedicated, like a PD day, where the committee can put on a wellness event, or if we decide to put it in the very first part, so we split the day in half, and the first half can be health and wellness, and the second half can be PD surrounding curriculum or surrounding whatever we need to as a school. So the events will also be, they'll be infrequent, but it will also help the school culture and climate to recognize that this is something important in our school. It is something we care about. Your health, your well-being matters to us, and that's why it's significant enough to either create an entire PD day out of, or to make an entire half-day PD day out of. Not something that you can voluntarily go to later. So sustainability of our initiative, obviously at orientation we'll have the exit survey where we will talk specifically about the wellness activities and how they felt about them and if they were positive. The committee participation, I think the more committee representation we have will show if people really are on board with this. We'll periodically do school climate surveys surrounding mental health and well-being. They'll be anonymous. And then obviously anecdotal notes and records. So anytime we can just kind of do a temperature gauge on our teachers and even on our administrators, right? Because this is also part of the initiative. It's not just for teachers, it's also for administrators to also access these resources. And then finally, our communication plan. So this initiative would have been communicated at our final whole school meeting last school year. Obviously, during orientation, the planning, the leadership planning of everything and how we roll that out. We also will have regular email communication from our committee, and then the bulletin boards displayed will also continuously communicate information. We both did not feel that we needed additional PD in this area, as our committee will be bringing in resources from outside as well as our counselors. We hope this presentation was relevant, was somewhat engaging. I know it's long, but please let us know if you would like access to our paper where we could share with you our activities, and if you'd like to roll this out in your school, we'd be happy to give this to you. Have a great day, and thank you for watching.